So today I'm going to talk about the three biggest issues that property owners run into when working with the San Diego property management company. Hi, my name is Steve Welty. I'm the owner broker of Good Life Property Management, and our mission is to make owning rental property easy. So let's get to it. Okay, number one is the property doesn't rent for what you thought it would rent for. And I want to look at this very zoomed in and also zoom out. So let's start zoomed in on some of the tactical stuff. So when you decide on a rental price with your management company, look for them to provide data behind why they're suggesting a rent. Look for maybe a 10% range of what the low end or the high end might be. And make sure they perform and get that amount and that you're comfortable with that. Review showing feedback with the manager on a weekly basis at least. Our software Tenant Turner asks for feedback from each tenant that views the property. And so a lot of times they'll tell you exactly why they're not renting the property, and you can make those adjustments. And then you can always adjust other terms besides rent. Sometimes deposit, you can ask for less, put it into payments. You could be flexible in your lease term. You could be open to pets. Maybe you add some appliances or update certain things. So there's a lot of things to play with, levers to pull besides just rent. And now I want to zoom out and think about the market in San Diego and how you think about the investment of the property and how it performs. Most of the time, the reason an owner doesn't want to reduce a rent or holds out for a higher rent amount is because the cash flow. And so just know in San Diego, this is not a cash flow market. Most owners are negative cash flow. So after expenses are paid and the income's collected, it's a negative. But that's because you don't make the money on cash flow. That's only one of four ways real estate pays. And you should check out my other video, which we'll link to below. 4 ways real estate pays goes into this more in depth. But basically, the tenant paying down the mortgage every month is easily $1,000 for most people's mortgages. And so if you're, let's say, $500 negative, that $1,000 that they're going to pay down your mortgage every month, that's a 3x return right there. Now you're plus 500. And then you also get appreciation, which is crazy in San Diego, one of the top markets in the country. And you get leveraged appreciation, which is based off the amount you borrow and the amount you put down. So that's another cool factor. And then the tax advantages. In California, you got to own real estate, rental real estate, because we need those deductions. And you can take those deductions off your rental income or carry those deductions forward to go take off the income when you sell the property. Okay, number 2 is repair costs are too high. And this might be like an individual repair is too high, or just the maintenance of the property is too expensive. So starting with the individual repair costs, it's important to know that a good management company should use insured professional vendors who naturally are going to cost more as far as, maybe what Frank down the street charges, but they're going to cost less over time because you're going to make the money back in repairs done right the first time, in protection if there's any damage to the property because they carry insurance, and just the quality of work. When you send someone into a occupied property and the tenant sees someone professional, they clean up after themselves, they do the job right the first time, that's going to lead to the tenant staying longer, which ultimately is going to make you more money. Now, the way to address maintenance issues costing too much over maybe a year's lease or something is be prepared for the maintenance. Now, depending on how old your house is, you should always budget, let's say, between 3% and 10% of the monthly rent into an account, keep it in that account, and just know that the maintenance is going to come up. So that way, when it comes up, you're prepared and the money's already set aside and you're in a much better position. A lot of, especially new landlords, make that mistake. They think once it's rent ready and the tenant moves in, there shouldn't be any maintenance for a few years. That's just not the case. It's like a car. It's going to need maintenance, except unlike your car, it's going to make you a ton of money. All right, number 3 is tenant issues. So some common ones are the owner's not happy with the tenant just because of who they are. Like maybe they had in their mind it would be this family or a single person, or they don't want a family, or they don't want individual roommates. None of that stuff is allowed in California. In fact, it can get you in big trouble by violating fair housing laws. So it's actually best to not know who the tenant is. And that's one of the great things about hiring a property manager is they're going to be a buffer, and you're not going to really know. You might know the tenant's name, but it's good not to know a lot about them, because then your mind has less information to make up stories about how they're going to be bad. It's a really interesting dynamic. Trust me, at first it's going to seem weird, but you'll end up loving it, because then it's really run like a business. You have a manager who's actually managing it, and you don't need to know a lot about the tenant. Look for managers who stand behind the tenant they select, like in the form of eviction protection or taking care of costs if the tenant goes bad. And just know that even with the best tenant screening, a very small percentage are going to be bad tenants, but bad tenants are usually a pain for the manager and ultimately don't cause you much headache in the long term. Like maybe they're a little rough around the property, maybe they're disturbing the neighbors. This is all stuff the management company should handle. And then an even smaller percentage of that is truly bad in the form of they don't pay the rent, they have to be evicted, or they damage the property. But proper tenant screening should screen all that out and make sure you're in a good position so that doesn't happen. So if this video helped you, please like and subscribe, and we're here to make it easy for you, so let us know how we can help. Make it a great day.